We'll call our meeting to order, and we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yikes. Wendy, you want to take the roll call?
Yes. Don Vanny.
Here.
Heather Logan.
Here.
Deborah Nelson.
Here.
Marilyn Ertley.
Here.
Jen Schweddy.
Here.
Michelle Blythe.
Here.
Yvonne Gallardo Van Ornum.
Here.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have two proclamations this evening. Two of our departments, their weeks of recognition are always overlaid. And first off, we'll start with Public Works, and Deborah's going to read that.
Thank you. It's an honor to read this, actually. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now therefore, Barbara Tolbert, Mayor of Arlington, Washington, does hereby proclaim the week of May 21st to the 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week in Arlington, and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And I agree.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
And Yvonne's going to read the National Police Week.
To recognize National Police Week 2023 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Arlington Police Department. Whereas, since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. Whereas the names of these dedicated these public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 35th Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2023. Whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of the National Police Week, which will be observed this year, May 14th through the 20th. Whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved that Barbara Tolbert, Mayor of Arlington, does hereby proclaim that May 14th through the 20th, 2023 will be observed as National Police Week in the city of Arlington, and publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation.
Thank you, Yvonne. All right, are there any members of the public that wish to speak to the council this evening? We'll ask you to go to the podium, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. There's a recent national and local increase in hate speech against LGBTQ plus people with
We
drag.
can't hear you.
Is this?
As long as I speak up and be a little closer.
If you would say your name,
All right.
please.
Hello? Is that better? All right. My name is Kira Gramori. Thank you. There is a recent national and local increase in hate speech against LGBTQ+ people, with drag performers appearing to be a top target. The hate speech itself, with unfounded accusations, hasn't changed much in at least 4 to 5 decades. Only the increased focus on drag performers is more intense in this most recent wave. Our 501c3 organization, Arlington Pride, and many of our local drag performers and venues have been the subject of online comments shared with us by local residents concerned for our safety. We have especially seen an increase in dialogue suggesting that our Pride event and other drag performances are not safe or appropriate for children. I am a clinical social worker and mandated reporter. I have also passed the fingerprinting, extensive background check, and 2-day training that allows one to apply for jobs in public schools with no difficulties. As someone whose work specializes in developmental trauma, I also take ongoing trainings that review the physiological impacts of various forms of relational disattunement as well as recognized trauma in children's developing nervous systems. Arlington has numerous LGBTQ+ youth. LGBTQ+ youth already had disproportionately higher rates of suicide, self-harm, homelessness, and other negative outcomes than their cisgender and heterosexual counterparts of the same ages. For those with genuine concerns about the safety of children, there are appropriate venues for such concerns, such as checking the registry for sex offenders or calling the abuse hotline for substantiated abuse or neglect of children. Drag is an art form that originated within the LGBTQ+ community, and it has significant cultural value to our community. Similar to the ratings in movies, drag can be made for children and families, like a G-rated movie, made for adults only, like an NC-17 rated movie, or made in between and up to caregiver discretion, like a PG-13 or R-rated movie. Drag is an art form that has the power to transform our LGBTQ population's disproportionately high rates of experiencing trauma, social ostracization, and violence, and allow us to transform those experiences and replace them with love, joy, beauty, humor, connection, belonging, and playfulness. Drag performances for children are not acts of abuse or neglect, nor have I seen any evidence of it causing harm to developing nervous systems in numerous trainings with specialists known around the world in the field of trauma research. In contrast to this, hate speech and social ostracization are known to cause harm to youth and to adults. How leaders respond to this new wave of verbal attacks can make a direct impact on these youth. Allowing and especially perpetuating hate speech has a direct negative impact on them and on adults as well. I would love to see the city make a clearer stand in not allowing or perpetuating hate speech, and I am willing to assist in this effort in various ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Kumar.
Kara.
Would it be possible for you to send us all a copy of what you read to us? I would really appreciate that.
Please.
You can give it to the city clerk over there, right at the end of the table, and she can disperse it.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of May 1st and May 8th, 2023.
Oh, were there more that wanted to speak? Oh. Okay. Okay, same thing,
she's
same
next
drill. If you'll just state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Yes, my name's Heather Beck. I own Mirkwood down at the end of the street, 117 East Division Street. Arlington, obviously.
Yeah.
I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know, just because it's been a bit of a topic about different performances. Down at the end of the street, we do music, dance, art, drag shows on Monday night. And they're family-friendly, open to everybody. I just wanted to let you know if you want to come down and check it out. Also, if you have any questions, I'm open to answering of your questions. Like I said, we encourage all types of art and music and dance. So, yeah, so you know where to find me.
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Thank you, Heather.
Anyone else?
Good evening.
My name is Michael Bear. I am a resident of Edmonds, Washington, visiting your nice town this evening. My wife, Molly Bear, is a local drag performer. She's getting ready for a performance at the Mirkwood right now. So that makes me a member of the Ligabitaquaquiapia 2S plus community, to save some syllables. It has also come to my attention that there is a bit of a local brouhaha over drag performances. And it's important to me to make sure that things like this are properly framed, because it's easy to get lost in narratives. And one of my concerns is that Arlington and my wife and local businesses and lots of otherwise uninvolved people are about to be swept up into what is essentially a nationwide moral panic, a culture war. And that's something that nobody in this room wants. You know, I understand that there are some concerns, maybe even, drag can be tacky sometimes. Drag can be very sexual sometimes. I have my personal tastes about what I like and what I don't like. Our culture as a whole is highly over-sexualized right now. Pop culture simply is. And kids, the kids we're worried about, kids are rebellious. Generation Z is the least sexed generation in decades. It's easy to miss the forest for the trees. The kids that I meet are reacting against this culture by actually choosing to be more abstinent. And that is the good news I want to share to the people who might be concerned that seeing a performance from a person expressing their gender identity or their art could somehow influence people or sexualize people. It can't. It doesn't have that power. And I grew up in a different cultural moment when it was very much not okay to be gay. And all of pop culture was giving me the opposite message, and authority figures were giving me the opposite message, but I still turned out gay. You know, we really just don't have as much influence over this as we think we do. And it's nice to be reminded of our own power. I'm running out of time, but there's one thing I wanted to say. This is the good news. The bad news is that if this is allowed to metastasize, and this town becomes a flashpoint in a larger national war, you will lose control of the narrative of what is happening here. And you will become extras in a story that somebody else is producing. And this town will no longer be able to speak for itself. And people will show up whose only goal is to oppose each other, who have no business with anyone here. You will have eventually armed people showing up to oppose each other. You will eventually have fodder for the nighttime news, none of which tells the real story of what's going on, and none of which I think anybody in this town, especially the civil servants here, especially Chief Ventura here, possibly wants to have to manage or deal with. It's really important to exercise some good leadership here and try to be prudent, put the kibosh on this. If there is a genuine concern, address it legally. As far as I can see, everything I'm seeing is happening within the law. And just don't let this town become a laughing stock, because this is a nice place. And, you know, if you don't believe it can happen to you, you know, this place can be known for the worst and stupidest thing that ever happens in it. Just ask anyone from Enumclaw. Thank you very much for your time, and I really hope that we're able to resolve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Anyone else?
My name is Tia Pollock, and I am a resident of Arlington. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor who specializes in working with LGBTQ population, and I am also a parent of children who identify as the LGBT population. And as such, being a resident of Arlington, I am concerned that if this continues, the hate speech and the prejudice and the discrimination our students already experience as young adults will continue to escalate. As a parent, I'm concerned that if that continues to happen in Arlington, my children won't be safe to be their authentic selves within our community. And my child is with me for this reason. At no point My child attended their first drag show at 9 years old. The only trauma they were subjected to were the protesters standing outside, telling me that I was a bad parent for subjecting my children to that. He has amazing memories of that, wants to attend on more than one occasion. But again, most drag shows in the evening are not age appropriate. We don't attend those. We only attend the appropriate ones. We also see a significant increase, as Kara was sharing, in suicide rates, alcohol abuse, drug abuse of our young adults, because it's a coping mechanism when they are not accepted by their community. We already have discrimination problems within the school. I don't want to see it within the city either. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Raise your hand. No, okay,
Okay, let me start again.
that's all right.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of May 1st and May 8th, 2023 council meetings and accounts payable as presented.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move on to our new business. And our first item is the approval of the airport's 2023 solar panel project and contract.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is one topic that has three elements to it. A budget amendment for our capital budget to include this in the 2023 capital budget, accept grant funding when it becomes available, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract when it is complete. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, trying to get grants from various places. We were finally able to secure a grant for $250,000 from WashDOT Aviation. We need to match that with about $300,000 from our capital budget. We have about over $1 million in that right now, so we have the money. But we may be available for some, what is the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, money for another 10%. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve on this so that we can get it approved ahead of time so that we can put an application in for that, which has a closing date at the end of July. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this project.
All right, Jen has a question.
Yes, and I know that solar panels, depending on what city, county you're in, or whether it's residential or business, okay? So my question is, when the solar panels are put in, and let's say they produce more electricity than what you use, will you get money back for that?
We will. It's called direct metering. So any power that is generated by the panels goes directly back to PUD. If we generate more than we use, we get a credit.
Wow.
This configuration will probably take care of about 80% of the airport office side of the building. So it's not going to be 100%, but it is also a guaranteed energy savings contract so that they guarantee that we will be able to pay for the panels over time with the savings that we make.
And I know that you're putting in some charging stations,
Yes.
and so this power can be used for the charging stations too, correct?
Well, it will go to it as like say it goes to the direct metering, which feeds into our panels and stuff, which will power the charging station. It'll just be part of the whole system.
Okay, good, thank you.
You bet.
Great, I don't see any other questions. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Okay. I move as follows to approve a budget amendment to the 2023 airport capital budget for the 2023 solar panel project with an approximate cost of $550,000, to authorize city staff to apply for grant funding for the project, and for the mayor and city staff to sign any documentation required to accept any grant funding which may be received for the project, and to authorize the city staff to negotiate a contract with, is it Verigy? Verigy LLC to administer the construction project conditioned on the receipt of grant funding in an amount of acceptable to city staff, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement subject to final review by the city attorney.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dave. It's nice to
Thank
see
you.
this project coming back. And our final item this evening is the relocation of the PUD conduit cable at 74th and 204th intersection. Jim Kelly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members. The city recognized that 204th is getting to be a very crowded thoroughfare. In addition, on the south side of 204th is an entrance into Arlington's industrial center. As it continues to develop, more and more vehicles are going in and out onto and off of 204th. We studied the intersection of 204th and 74th Avenue, and we realized a signal had to be constructed there. We did the design. We put that on the 2023-2024 budget, and we are moving forward with that project. This item before you is part of that project. It requires a council approval for the mayor to sign a purchase order in the amount of $133,552.70 for the undergrounding of the electric overhead wires that are on the north leg of that intersection. This is a requirement that we do as part of the project, is to put the overhead wires underground. PUD is the only game in town, so we have to pay them. So I'd like to recommend that the mayor be authorized to sign the PO for undergrounding the overhead wires on the north leg of the 74th and 204th intersection.
Thank you, Jim. Heather has a question.
Jim, what is the remaining 600,000 going for? The rest of the construction?
The rest of the construction,
Okay, so
yes.
this is just the undergrounding of the overhead?
Now we're putting in,
No, I mean tonight's request is
tonight's
just
just $133,000
Yeah,
for the
okay.
undergrounding.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions.
I move to approve the issuance of a purchase order to the Snohomish County PUD for electric utility relocation work at the 74th, 204th intersection and authorize the mayor to sign the purchase order.
Second?
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Do we have any council reports this evening? All right, Paul, any administrative reports?
Nothing else this evening, thank you.
All right. I have nothing else.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move for adjournment.
Second? Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
We are efficient.